Alright guys, today I'm going to be trying to figure out a hack on another new camera that was sent to me by West Coast Canuck. It's a Samsung TL350 WB2000. It's a 10.2 megapixel camera, and it also has the option to do video with this button right here on the back. So hopefully I can figure out the hack on this camera and use it for daytime video and nighttime stills, or just 24-hour still photos. The camera has a lot of neat options. Can adjust the video that it takes all the way up to 1080p, 1000 frames per second, and in still picture mode you can get up to 10 frames per second. But anyway, I'm going to see about taking this camera apart and see if I can figure out a hack on it. There's 2 screws on the right hand side that need to be removed, 2 on the bottom, and 2 on the left hand side, and I've already got those removed. They're all the same length, so you don't have to worry about that when you put your camera back together. But take the camera apart, I'm going to start separating the halves, and you need to remove the front cover first on this camera. Let's see if we can get that worked loose. And there we go. We got the front cover off. Now, before you ever start trying to take the back cover off, you'll notice down here on the bottom of this main board, there's a small ribbon that connects to this little latch or block right there. Lift that latch up very gently, because as always you don't want to break your latch. And then we need to disengage that little ribbon from that block. Carefully get that out of there so we don't tear it. Now, in order to get your back cover off, go ahead and see if we can get that start coming loose here and get it worked loose all the way around. And just don't pull it out too far, especially on this right hand side over here, because you're going to have to work that ribbon that's on the front right up in between this side of the camera housing in order to get your back cover off. And you don't want to tear up that ribbon. Okay, so we got that, and you need to watch that LCD too, because it may want to flop around on you. Alright, now that we've got our front and back covers off of the camera, we need to remove our top power board up here so we can get to the points that we're going to use to hack the camera. So we need to disconnect this ribbon right here. So just pop that loose from this little block, and there's 1 screw that we need to remove, which is right here in the center by the flash tube. So we'll take that out. Alright, now right here by the capacitor, you can kind of work that board up and start rotating it a little bit, and then you can lift that up off there. And for now, we'll set our camera to the side and get to our hack locations for this camera. We need to remove this board, and actually what I would do at this point would be go ahead and discharge the capacitor, and you'll be able to get to those contacts easily on it. And I've already discharged this one previously, so I won't have to do that again. But to get this board off, we need to remove 4 screws here. There's 1 right here on this right hand side, then there's 1 right here, 1 right here, and these 3, this one, and this one, you don't need to remove those. but there's one right over here close to the flash capacitor that we need to remove. This one and this one are shorter screws. This one and the one by the flash tube are a little longer, so keep those in order whenever you go to put the camera back together. Alright, so now I've got the 4 screws removed that I needed to take out to be able to get to this top board for our contacts for the hack. Alright, so right here where this dial is, just get in between there and just kind of pop that loose, and then you can rotate that top board over, and you'll notice it's got a speaker on this corner over here, and there's 2 microphones, and we can kind of work those microphones up out of their little holding spot, so we can get rid of that top piece. And since we're going to be using this camera as a daytime video, I want to have my audio to go with it too, so I'm going to be desoldering probably this speaker right here in the center, and soldering on some wires there at the microphone positive and negative locations to run my microphone outside the camera. And you could use this mic if you wanted to, but I'll be using a different 2-wire mic. But on the other side of the board for our hack locations, and I hope you can see this good enough here, our power button is right here, and for the hack on it we're going to need the bottom left contact for power common and the top right contact for power. Then our shutter button over here, all of your contacts are going to be on the left hand side, and you're going to need 3 wires for this camera. The top left pad is going to be your shutter. The bottom left pad is going to be for focus, and then the little metal housing that is on that button, make your little solder pad there and solder on a wire for shutter common to that. When you soldering on your shutter and focus wires, make sure that you don't bridge that metal housing with either of those. And also, this is on a little ribbon type board, so you want to not apply too much heat, and destroy this board. So at each one of these contacts where you've got to solder a wire on, put you just a little dab of soldering paste, pre-tin your wires, and that'll help you get your contacts made there at each of these locations without messing up your board from too much heat on it. Okay, and also when you put that top trim piece back on, you're going to have to make sure you get this rotary dial switch in the right position in order to be able to get it to press back down on the little contact that it goes to. So just remember that. Alright, one other thing I want to mention to you before I forget about it is where I'm going to be routing all my wires off of this power board up here. I'm going to be running them towards the back so I can run them in behind that LCD holder. And you notice around where the shutter button is, this piece of plastic trim piece and everything, it's pretty open right there, so I don't think you'll have a problem routing your wires down there and getting any clearance when you put this back together on your board. But where the power button is, it's got a little edge, raised edge, that goes all the way around that, and probably right here along this edge I'm just going to trim out a little bit of that, similar to what I did on the back of the camera, so I could get my external wires to clear without pinching them or cutting them. So probably going to finish cleaning that up later, and that'll just give me a pretty nice place there to run my wires so that they don't get cut and cause any problems later on. So like I said, that's all things you need to think about when you're doing your hacking, when you're figuring out where you want to route wires and what's going to interfere with them and things like that. So anyway, just keep a lookout for stuff like that, and that way you don't get damaged wires when you're putting your camera back together. Now for our video button on this camera, it's located on this menu board that's on the back cover, and we need to remove the 2 screws that hold that on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And to do the video hack on this camera, it's going to actually make it to where you won't be able to take video manually with that button any longer, because of the way we have to do the hack on it. And this is the only way that I have found to be able to do the video button hack on this camera. Alright, so our button that controls video is right here. Alright, and you'll see that this green and white piece of plastic is over all of those buttons. So just kind of get in there, and of course this one's already loose because I've been doing it, but you'll have to peel that plastic back, and then the little bitty metal disc that's in there for the pressure switch, you need to remove it, because we won't have a need for that anymore. Alright, and once you got that disc removed and that plastic peeled back, you'll notice that there's a center copper pad and then a ring around it, another copper ring. What we need is the center copper pad. So put your little dab of soldering paste on there, apply just a small dab of solder to make you a solder pad, but don't bridge this outer ring with that. Just need that very center pad there, and then we'll be soldering the wire on there. And make sure that your wire doesn't have so much exposed wire that it bridges across over to that outer ring. Alright, and that's going to be our video button hack. The video button and the shutter button use the same common, and I know a lot of people are going to ask or be wondering, well, can't you use the same common for power and shutter and video, like your battery ground? No, that will not work. The power button has to have its own common, and then the shutter button common can be used for the video button common also. Alright, so that's our hack locations on that camera. Alright, so now that I've got the camera pretty well apart, and I've already found the hack locations on it, and I've also found where I want to run my wires out this camera, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to be doing that. On the bottom where the tripod mount is, you'll notice that there's 2 screws, and you can take those screws out. Go ahead and do that right quick. Take those 2 screws out, and that mount will come out. Alright, and it leaves a hole up in here so we can have an exit point to bring all our wires out if we want to bring them out the bottom. And that's probably what I'm going to be doing. Well, I know I will. I'm going to be bringing them out the bottom, and I'm going to try to run them behind the LCD screen. So I've got my LCD screen kind of taped in place here right now, so I'm going to tape that. And I haven't found a way that you can actually get this LCD screen off, because the ribbon goes all the way around to the main board right here. And even if you unlatch this ribbon, you can't get it by this side piece without taking the main board loose. So I'm not going to worry about doing that. I'm just going to rotate it over and try to be very, very careful here so I don't tear that ribbon. But there's 4 screws on the bracket back here that hold it on, here, 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 and here. So I'm going to take those out, and that'll give me a exit point, or a place to route all my wires down the back side of the camera here and bring them out that tripod hole. Get these screws out right quick. So there's one other thing here I want to show you. Once you got those screws out, right here where this ribbon goes in, you'll see a yellow piece of tape, and the metal from this back cover latches into another piece of metal there. So you take your little flat screwdriver, kind of work down in there and try to get that to unlatch, and then work this little corner up right here, and should be able to get that back cover off of there. Okay, so get that out of our way, and now we've got a place where we can run all of our wires right down along the back side here, and maybe tuck them into that tripod hole. You may have to clear out a little bit more of that plastic there to be able to do that. Alright, but up here, let me fold my LCD screen back over so I don't tear it up. Tape it back in place. But right here at this top edge, you could kind of clear out a little bit of that plastic there as well, so you can bring your external wires over without them binding up or getting pinched. Like I said, just give you a little bit of a recess right there along that edge, and may have to do a little bit over along this area, but you don't want to cut into any of those ribbons over there by that CCD lens assembly and stuff like that. So just be careful there doing this. So it doesn't hurt to do modifications on the camera where you need to get your wires to where you can get them out of the camera without messing them up, as long as you're not tearing up anything, or do what you got to do in here. Don't be afraid. Alright, so looks like I could probably do a little bit more cleaning up there. I can get my external wires soldered on up there, and then bring them across here and come out down to that tripod mount. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that while I had a moment. And I want to show you the external battery locations on this camera. I've already got my camera pretty much hacked, and I've tried a couple of times to get this right, and it's pretty difficult to do. But right up at the top of the battery compartment here, you'll see the contacts for the battery. And starting at the right, the first one's going to be your battery negative, and then the third one over towards the left is going to be your battery positive. And what I've found so far is that you're going to have to use a really small gauge wire. It's pretty much like you use for the rest of your hack 30 or 31 AWG, and those wires need to be soldered right at the base of that pin in order to let it move up and down freely, and your battery to still make contact with the other two pins there. Otherwise the camera's not going to power on and work properly. Alright, so I finally finished the hack on this Samsung TL350/WB2000, and I want to check my external wires first to make sure we're getting a good reading there at our battery. So get my wires here, connecting to my meter, and I'm showing 3.77 volts, so I know my external connections are good. So get rid of my meter. Alright, and I've got my two wires from a mic run outside, and I've got them soldered to this 2-wire mic that we'll be using for our audio. Alright, so to check our hack, we connect power and power common, and the camera powers up. And then for shutter, we're going to need our 3 wires. We need our shutter common and our focus wire, and we'll need our shutter wire. And we need to connect focus and shutter common, and then shutter, and that takes a picture. And then disconnect them, and then connect them again in order for it to take a second picture. Alright, and then for video, we need our shutter common wire and our video wire, and we are now recording video. Touch those two again, and video stops. One thing I want to mention to you on this, I ran into quite a bit of a problem with the menu button here on the back. I opened the camera up several times trying to figure out the problem, and what I discovered was where I soldered that wire on to the center pad for our video, what it was doing was it had poked through the little plastic cover that was originally over that little metal disc in there, and it was grounding out on this button itself, and so it was causing me not to be able to take video with my hack wires. And when I would try to go into the menu, it would actually, half the time it would start taking video instead of going into the menu settings. So after opening it up several times, I discovered that I was getting a short from that video wire to the buttons back here, and so to resolve that issue, put a couple pieces of electrical tape over where my wire was at to keep it from grounding out onto the button back here. So you may want to go ahead and take those precautionary steps whenever you hack this camera, so when you put yours back together you won't have that issue. But anyway guys, that's the hack on the Samsung TL350 camera. It's got some nice options with this camera as far as how many pictures per second you can take and how many frames per second you can shoot in video mode, and all the way up to 1920 by 1080p, I believe is what it is. So hopefully it's going to make a great little trail camera. Thanks for watching.